Hi guys, and welcome back to At Home with Elisa. If you saw my last video, then you would be aware that we have just flooded for, I think it's the third time actually that we've flooded since we've moved here, which is only just over a year ago. Definitely still getting used to things. It's a very stressful situation. As you've seen, we've already started to repair some of the damage that was caused to the garden. We had some blockades up which did not work. We had our bearded iris were all covered over with some of the topsoil that just got buried, and the chicken coop, we had some plastic which we got from the State Emergency Services last time it flooded, and that sort of helped us to protect a lot of the water that was going into the girls' coop, but we know we need to do some repairs to that obviously. Over the last 2 weeks, we've actually had 500 millimeters of rain, which is almost half a meter of rain, which is absolutely crazy that you could actually have that much weather so quickly. We had that big rain event that went for about 5 days, and then I think we had about 2 days of nothing, and then we had another day after that, and they said we were going to get about 5 to 10 millimeters of rain, and we ended up getting, I think it was 47 millimeters of rain. So it's just crazy the amount of rain that we've had, and moving to a new property and not being aware of the drainage on the property as well. Obviously water finds its own way, it's going to no matter what, so we know we need to do some things. But where we moved from in our residential area, we were living on, basically it was just a sand base, and we called ourselves the Flatlanders because everything, it's like a locals joke, everything is just very, very flat, and being on a sand base, water just drains away. So you do get some flooding when the drainage isn't quite right, but up here on our block, I honestly thought we'd be dealing with a lot more of drought than we would be flooding. It just did not occur to me that we would have this much crazy La Nina weather and we'd be dealing with flooding on such a big scale. I really wanted to do this video today just to discuss some things. I'm really hoping that I might have somebody who watches this that could maybe help us out. Obviously we need to do some drainage works. Being Flatlanders, we don't know much about and drainage and that sort of thing. With our chicken coop, obviously the chicken coop has flooded. We know that we want to elevate that about 25-30 centimeters higher with a wood base surrounding it, elevate it so that the chickens are up a little bit higher, and then backfill inside that with sand so that it's free draining. That's what we had at our last property inside the coops, and that seemed to work really well. So that is one of the things that we want to do. We can't actually do that just until some of that wood that we did have around the coop has dried out, and then we'll paint it and do it. Some other areas that we're looking at doing is the trench that goes all the way along the top of the property on the high side. So we have a gentle slope. On the high side, we have a trench that goes all the way along to about the halfway point where our creek is. That trench is about a foot deep and a foot wide. Clearly that is not sufficient. We made it really pretty, and we put beautiful big 50 mil sandstone boulders in there, and it looks beautiful. It looks like a dry creek bed when it's not in use, but when it floods it just isn't adequate. So we do have an excavator man that we really like to use. However, we're probably about a month of solid dry weather before he would even be able to get his excavator in here, just because of the amount of mud and how wet the ground is. The ground's sodden, like we're still wearing gumboots all the time. It's that wet. So we know that we can't get that done straight away. It is something that we want to look at doing, but that big drain I think will stop some of the runoff from next door. The other things that we really need to concentrate on are actually the catchment overflowing. So the catchment pipes were made for one in a 500-year flood event or something, according to the paperwork that we have in our sale contract. However, they have flooded 3 times since we've been here. And we know that we need to do some work for the catchment. So we're looking at, there is a low point, and we're looking at putting in like a false wall with sleepers, and allowing some pipes to be drilled directly into that sleeper and have it drain away to where we want it to go, and kind of following the natural flow of the land. So that's what we're looking at doing for there. But the main thing that I need to, we do have some ideas obviously on what we want to do to try and fix the drainage, but the main thing that I really wanted to discuss with you today is how we stop water from getting down into this chicken coop and garden area. So we believe that we have some natural springs just in front of our tiny home. They fill up and they take a long time to dry out, which is going to be absolutely fantastic for when we're in drought and, you know, we actually want to look at boring into those natural springs and getting them like on a tap situation. But in the meantime, we just don't know how to stop the flow of water coming out of them. So it's just a mud pit. It really is just a mud pit, and we're not sure how to slow them. So I don't know that there is anything that we can do with that regards, but as it gets a bit closer to our garden here, I thought if I mention it, maybe somebody might have an idea on how we can go about it. So this is the area just in front of the garden and in front of the chicken coop that we're sort of trying to figure out how we can divert water away from there. One of our thinkings was that if we did a large garden bed from this post all the way along the front, all the way to that post just there, if we had a large garden bed, sort of like 2 sleepers high, so maybe 500, 600 mils high, that would then allow stop the water from basically going in and flooding this garden in particular and the rose garden. I had 70 ranunculus planted in that garden bed, and I'm pretty sure that I picked some of them up in the pathway down here. So I don't know that any of them survived. Time will tell there. But we're trying to work out exactly how we can stop the water flowing in and ruining any work that we sort of put into the garden, because I don't want to go fix it up again if it's just going to wash away. So our thinking is if we put a raised garden bed in front of this area here, then maybe that might stop some of the flow. It'll come down and hit the raised garden bed, but then the question is, where is it going to go from there? Like, is it going to go in that gate and then straight down there, or, you know, is it going to go over to here and hopefully down there? So we do have some, I don't know if you can see, there's like a little line in the grass, just if you can see that in front of that whole garden bed area and all the way up through the chicken coop. So there is actually an underground drainage pipe there that has a sock on it, so it should filter water through, and it goes all the way, you can sort of see the divot, goes all the way through right over to down there. That submerged pipe actually leads down further over to here, and next doors actually feeds into a creek. They actually have a river that sort of is on their property, and it all feeds down and goes into one of the local creeks, which is perfectly fine. We just want to get water away from our property and into that area. So looking for suggestions on what we can do here. So this is the area from that garden bed, just the camera is level there, so you can see the amount of slope that we are actually dealing with. As I said, there is a gully along the top of the property over there that isn't quite deep enough, and it does actually overflow at this section. So we do need to make that gully obviously a lot deeper, and then that will stop a lot of the water runoff. But I just want to try and work out how I can maybe put a garden bed on the other side of this fence and try and stop losing, because this has been washed out a few times now, and I don't know if anything that I planted in there has survived. So yeah, and then it leads down to here, which gets washed out as well. One of the other options that we're actually considering as well is just in front of, like, still putting that garden bed in front of this garden and the chicken coop area, but also maybe having a dry creek bed. So kind of like a gully with sandstones planted out around it to make it look nice, but a dry creek bed that would basically go from the chickens through to the garden and then back down that way towards where it feeds into the local creek that way. And then that way, when it does sort of, we do get those heavy downpours, it would then hopefully catch it all. Another option that we're looking at doing is, after the property dries out a bit, is doing like a herringbone drain on our large grassed area here. We don't plan on building on that actual grassed area, so we're looking at maybe doing a herringbone drain, which obviously requires a lot of heavy machinery coming in and doing it, which isn't a problem. They obviously won't be able to do it anytime soon though, so if we do get another downpour, we're going to be in the same situation. So looking for a quick fix to stop flooding if we do get another heavy downpour, but looking for a long-term fix as well. So if anybody has any suggestions at all, please either email me or comment below on the video, because we're really at a loss as to what to do. we know how to obviously work with drought, but working with flooding, I'm definitely not familiar with how to cope with it. So the plan for us going forward at this point in time is I want to finish off our greenhouse. We did start that before all the weather sort of kicked in. That's obviously been put on hold. So I'd like to finish off the greenhouse and work on the chicken coop next month, maybe get the chicken coop elevated next month. But as for the garden beds that are just beside me and behind me here, I'm not entirely sure if I want to actually invest any time in fixing them up until I know that they're not going to flood again, because it's just heartbreaking watching everything. Like, I did cry. I cried when it was flooding. I cried, you know, all the hard work and all the plants that you put in there and the seeds and the corms, and then to have it all wash away, and you're literally picking them up on a garden path about 5 meters downstream. So it is something that we want to get sorted out, but I'm just not keen to actually start planting in those garden beds as yet. I did have in mind that we were going to be starting on another garden bed just at the very back here. So if you just look over the back there, you can see that I've got a lot of wood, and I've also got some plastic bags. Those plastic bags actually haven't got rubbish in them, it looks like it, but they've just got newspaper. So we have some family members collect newspapers for us, and we use them in our gardens and our landscaping. So I'm just trying to keep those dry until I need to use them, but I'll be putting those down in that garden bed. That was the next garden bed that I was hoping to plant out. However, now with this flooding, I'm thinking that I might reuse the wood that I've got just there, and I think it's probably more of a priority to try and stop the flooding into the garden to begin with. So that one outside the fence would probably be more of a priority than that one back there. So that's where we're at with our thinking. Obviously the last week it's very, very hard when you're watching a property that you absolutely love be washed away, and a lot of work be washed away. It's a bit gut-wrenching. It's very hard to come back into the garden and fix it up and get things going again. We were obviously very lucky. We have people in our area not too far from us have lost their houses, and thankfully no one lost their lives at this latest flood. But it is still heartbreaking watching, you know, what you're trying to build. It just sets you back a bit, so it's a bit of a kick in the guts, but you get back up and you keep trying. But I just don't want to keep doing something over and over again expecting a different result, because I won't. If we do get those heavy downpours again, we'll be in exactly the same situation. So if anyone has any ideas, please, as I said, just comment below or drop me an email. My email's in the description box below, because we're just at a little bit of a loss as to any suggestions on what we can do. So if you have any ideas, then please let us know, because we'll definitely take them all on board and consider all of our options. We obviously can get some landscapers in and have a discussion with them as well, which we definitely haven't ruled out. But we're just going to see how we go with the ideas that we've got as well, because we know some of those need to be done, and we have had some consultations previously that we know we need to do certain things. So it's just a matter of getting heavy machinery in here on absolutely wet sodden ground, so they generally don't work well together. So we just have to wait for it to dry out a little bit before we can even try and be proactive in that way. So is what it is. So thank you so much for checking in with me today. I do appreciate you watching. I do appreciate you commenting or emailing. If you have liked this video, please consider subscribing or give me a thumbs up. It really does help my channel. I'm looking forward to, I just need to not do any work just here in the garden for a little bit. So I'm looking forward to doing some landscaping a little bit later this week, and working on a different area of the property that isn't as flood prone. So just shift focus for a little bit, I think, is a good idea. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.